What's going on? Welcome back to another episode of Off the Schneid, special daytime episode. It's a holiday here in the Great White North in Canada, so able to do a little daytime stream for you guys. Hopefully you like it. Smack the like if you're just popping in. Let's get right into it. We're going to talk about quarterback situations, a little bit of update, a little bit of news. T. Higgins expected to be franchise tagged. Not that should be a surprise to anybody. All that does is give the Bengals a little bit of leverage to most likely trade him. I mean, to be honest, I think the 26.18 whatever million it is, I think that's fair money if you ask me, but we'll see. That makes him higher paid, more paid than Nico Collins. So we'll see where it lands. I don't expect him to play on the tag, but I do expect a trade to probably materialize. Obviously, it'll be a sign and trade. There'll have to be a deal in place before the trade happens, most likely, unless the team just feels super comfortable that they're going to be able to get a long-term deal done. But we'll see. We'll see if he even signs it too. That's yet to be seen. He has to sign the tag. You can't just sign him and that's that. He's on the franchise tag. He has to come in, sign the tag, and we'll see how it actually happens. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I'm not too worried about it. Shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, but that's not what we're here for today. What we're going to get into, we'll do a draft in a little bit. We're going to chat for a few minutes just about the quarterback situation in the NFL right now. So obviously the draft's coming up, the combine's coming up. There's a few teams that we know are quarterback needy as it sits right now. Those teams are the New York Jets, with Aaron Rodgers being released. Obviously that's happening. The Cleveland Browns with Deshaun Watson being completely useless. And to be honest, I would just eat all of the salary. You're going to eat it regardless. Get him out of your locker room, get him off your team, pay him the money, cut him a check, whatever. It is what it is. There's nothing you can do about it. So just eat it. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they don't have Russell Wilson or Justin Fields under contract as it sits right now. So we'll see where that lands. The Tennessee Titans, obviously they have Will Levis, but I'm sure that they want to bring in some competition. For me, you 100% draft Abdul Carter. You stay at the 1-1. You draft Abdul Carter. You move on. You bolster that defense. There's lots of free agents. There's lots of guys they could bring in to make some competition there, and then you kind of see what you can get. The Las Vegas Raiders, obviously they have Aiden O'Connell, they have Gardner Minshew, both under contract. So where does that go? That's an interesting one. That might be the most interesting. Probably a rookie, most likely, but we'll get into that a little bit. And then the New York Giants are obviously on the board as well. So we went over this spreadsheet that I did on the last episode, just on Saturday there. So I'm going to bring it back up. I've added a few things on there. And let's kind of dig into who I think lands where and why. There's got to be some reasons here. So let's dig into it. First things first, Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones to the Minnesota Vikings. Obviously, he came in. He's on the practice squad. He's there. Sam Darnold's a free agent. They're not likely to pay the money. He's earned a contract. So I don't think he comes back to the Vikings, but it makes sense for Daniel Jones to stay there. Makes the most sense to stay with Kevin O'Connell. Cheap one-year deal, prove-it deal. JJ McCarthy might not be ready to go. Either way, you might get in there, even if he's not there health-wise. But also, let's say Daniel Jones just beats him out. You could blame the health if you want. If you're the coaching staff, you can spin the narrative however you kind of like. And clearly he just wanted to go to Minnesota. He got better offers, after the Giants cut him. He could have went to some other teams. He could have played last year at the end of the season, but no, he decided to go to the Vikings and kind of take it from there. And I think it continues. It just makes the most sense. Stay with Minnesota. You may get a chance to play. I just think that that's the most likely landing spot. Just stay in Minnesota. So Daniel Jones to the Minnesota Vikings, that takes kind of one of our players off the list, one of the free agents. Next up, Kirk Cousins to the New York Jets. Aaron Glenn, played against Kirk Cousins 4 times, twice a year for 2 seasons only. 2021 and 2022 were the only seasons that Kirk Cousins played against Aaron Glenn as a the defensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions. Maybe he was secondary coach. I don't think he was, though. I think he was somewhere else. But regardless, just between the Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions, torched his secondary a little bit. Only 2-2, record-wise, but those are relatively evenly matched teams for the most part. 70% passer, 1,300 yards exactly in those 4 games, 7 touchdowns, 1 interception. They're going to have a ton of cap space. We talked about this in the last episode there. We went over all the cut candidates. With Aaron Rodgers leaving, I fully expect Devontae Adams to be gone. Alan Lazard, I fully expect to be off that roster. They can free millions and millions of dollars. I think it was upwards of like 60 million dollars that they can free up. And I think they have about 16 million or something. So they can take on this cap. And I think that the Jets are a lot closer than other people think as far as being competitive. I think this would be fantastic for Garrett Wilson, who would be an absolute target monster you could say a Justin Jefferson type of a year. If this happens, I would definitely bump Garrett Wilson up my kind of rankings a little bit. If it were me and if I were you, I would do the same thing. So I think it makes sense. They can get out of the contract too after just 1 year. So they bring him in a cheap trade. I think that's the way to go about it. I don't think you should muck around with hoping they cut him to save the cap. I think it makes more sense. Like, obviously it makes more sense for the Falcons to trade him anyways. And it's not going to cost a lot. What are you going to send them? A 6th-round pick? Something like that? Like, it's real, maybe a 5th. It's really not going to cost the Jets very much to bring in a Kirk Cousins. The Falcons are obviously just going to want to get that cap off of the books post June 1 for sure. So that's what I think you do. And then you draft someone as well. So they're sitting at, 6? There's 6 or 7. There's a lot of connections between Jackson Dart and the Jets. I think that actually would make a ton of sense if Kirk Cousins comes in and is the quarterback at least next year and potentially a year or two. I mean, you can take it from there. You can get out of the contract at any time after this season. So, you have him play this year. You have Jackson Dart or some other rookie that you may like that you can bring in pretty easily with that 1st-round pick. You have no rush to start him. I don't think the fan base is going to be screaming for whatever rookie, you do draft if Kirk Cousins is getting the job done, which I would expect him to do. So I think that makes the most sense to get 1 season out of him, draft a rookie, have somebody waiting in the wings, 1, maybe 2 seasons, under Kirk Cousins. They can easily cut him after that and kind of take it from there. So I might actually start putting a few shares of Garrett Wilson with Kirk Cousins if I'm taking like a super late QB3, because he's borderline 3 Kirk Cousins. We'll look into that once we jump over to the Underdog site there. We'll look at where his ADP is, but I'm pretty sure he's a 20th round, 18th to 20th round type of quarterback. So if you piece together just a couple shares of that, just those 2, maybe add some rookies in there. You could, Conklin, if you really wanted to, it's a good opportunity that he comes back to this team. Jeremy Ruckert was a guy we talked about last episode as well. So that's what I think. I'm kind of penciling in Kirk Cousins to the Jets. I think it makes a ton of sense to go down that road. Elijah Moore to the Rams. This isn't quarterback talk, but I think that's fully on the table. Mike LaFleur was the OC. We'll get into that at another time. Mecca Buka to the Texans, I think makes a lot of sense. But Will Howard to the Giants is where I wanted to get to. So I think that if I'm being honest, I haven't completed all of my kind of tape study for quarterbacks, but I've gotten pretty deep into it. And I just honestly don't think anybody is ready to start this year. I don't think any of these rookies are, and I said it before, I'm saying it again now, I'll continue to say it. I honestly think that Will Howard is the most NFL ready quarterback right now. If you need a quarterback to start an NFL game right now in this rookie class, for me, it's Will Howard, and it's really not particularly close. That's my opinion. Call me an idiot, call me wrong. I don't really care. It's not my first rodeo. Throw it in the chat, throw it in the comments, go nuts. But that's my opinion, and I'm pretty firm on that one. So Will Howard to the Giants. Dable, it's no secret that he's on the hot seat, right? He's got to get some wins under his belt. He's got to get something done with this team. And then, Howard, in my opinion, is the most NFL ready to start a game right now. That's not even really close for me. Size and the running ability that Brian Dable loves. He was able to develop Josh Allen, wasn't able to do that with Daniel Jones, but maybe Daniel Jones just isn't that good. And I don't think that's, setting the world on fire either, right? So he was able to develop and expand the career for Josh Allen. He wasn't for Daniel Jones, a similar body, a similar type player. Will Howard. Go watch the tape. He looks really good. And then Dable gets a chance to, draft his guy, draft his quarterback, right? You're kind of out of excuses if you're Brian Dable, if you go down this road and you draft a quarterback like Will Howard and it doesn't work out, then you're kind of out of excuses. They're going to have to let him go. He goes back to being an offensive coordinator somewhere. But I think it could work out. I actually really like this. He finally has a chance to pick and develop, his type of a quarterback. Where are we? Second round, most likely, pick 34. I think that's perfect. The perfect range in the real life NFL draft for Will Howard to go. I certainly don't think that they would have to pick him with their, what is it, 6th overall, 4th overall, wherever they're at. I certainly don't think that that's a good pick. They might have to trade up back into the first round, which is pretty easy coming from pick 34. They should be able to make something work with 29, 28, 30, 31, 32, whatever. Get into the back end, have that 5th-year option, right? I think that makes tons of sense. That's the way I go it if I'm the Giants. Bring in a Will Howard, and then you got all of these other kind of, veteran quarterbacks that are kicking around out there. You got your Jacoby Brissett's, you've got Jameis Winston, Russell Wilson. You have these types of, just veteran quarterbacks that can play in the NFL. They'd be good in the locker room. Maybe you don't have to start Will Howard, week 1. Maybe you bring him in week 6, 7, 8, something like that. I don't know. But that's a great landing spot if you ask me. Makes sense with Brian Dable. So that's where I'm penciling in Will Howard. I think that makes a ton of sense. And then these ones we kind of already talked about already, but Fantasy Football Garage, appreciate you coming in. Abuka reunited with Stroud. Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense, man. He had his best college season with CJ Stroud as the quarterback. Bill Lazor, coached with under Chip Kelly in Philly, I believe. It was in Philadelphia when Chip Kelly was the head coach. Bill Lazor was there. He's a senior offensive assistant with the Texans right now. Chip Kelly, obviously OC at Ohio State. So a little bit of connection there. I'm not sure that Abuka lasts pick 25, so they might have to trade up if they want to get him. I think that would be a good idea for the Texans to do. So we'll see. But I think that makes a lot of sense. We'll talk about this other stuff a little bit later, but that's kind of all I wanted to get into. And then what are we looking at here? So I think for the Browns, we'll talk about the Browns quickly. I think it would make the most sense for the Browns to go with someone like either Mac Jones. Actually, let's bring this back up. Either one of these two free agent quarterbacks that are still young enough that could be the future of your franchise. They could be the quarterback of the future. Trey Lance and Mac Jones. I think those are the two for the Browns. If it's me, you bring them in really cheap. It's not a big deal. And they could be your quarterback of the present and future. So, it's obvious they're in a bad spot with this Deshaun Watson contract. So you bring in someone cheap on a 1-year deal, a prove-it deal. These are the two that make sense to me. Honestly, Mac Jones is really the guy that makes much more sense. He's proven that he can play in this league. I think it would make sense in that Kevin Stefanski offense. He was there with Kirk Cousins in Minnesota before he moved to the Browns. Kirk Cousins, Mac Jones, they're, you squint your eyes and you can definitely see the same quarterback there, right? So obviously, Mac Jones would have to progress, but I think he can get the job done. I think that makes the most sense is Mac Jones to the Browns. Trey Lance, maybe, given the age and the possibility that he could be your guy, he can get the job done on the ground too. He can run around a little bit, scramble, get some rushing yards. So it gives you that different dynamic. I don't think Justin Fields would make a ton of sense there. I honestly think Justin Fields might end up with the Steelers, even though, last episode I was saying if I'm Justin Fields, I'd tell the Steelers to go fuck themselves. Like, you pulled me for old man Wilson over here. And then what happened? We look like, garbage in the playoffs for sure. And down the stretch, we look like garbage. So I don't know. It's hard to say with Justin Fields. He's an interesting one. And then the two teams that are really, really kind of throwing me off, and I really don't know what they're going to do, would be the Titans and the Raiders. I feel like if I'm the Titans, Sam Darnold might be my guy. I think that's probably the route that I would take if I'm Brian Callahan. I think he would fit that offense better than any of these other guys. And if you do draft Abdul Carter, which I 1,000,000% think is the pick, and I don't think I wouldn't even think about it. If I'm the Titans, I wouldn't think twice. I wouldn't hesitate for a second. I would turn in my pick, Abdul Carter, no question, make it easy. And then you go ahead and sign Sam Darnold. I think that makes the most sense. It's got to be a bit of a prove it deal where you can get out of it after even one season, like a Geno Smith type of a contract, right? Where you can get out of it after one season to absolute maximum. And then you leave the door open for next year. If you're still a bad team, you can go ahead and draft a quarterback in a much better class. So I think it's Sam Darnold to the Titans. That makes the most sense for me. And then if I'm the Raiders, that's where it gets really weird. What do we do for the Raiders? Let's talk a little bit about Shedeur Sanders. I watched a lot of tape on him last night. I actually thought I was going to hate, the tape a lot more than I did. And I absolutely hated it, if I'm being honest. But let me be a little more clear on that. I actually liked the tape. I liked the potential that he has. I don't have it pulled up here, my other spreadsheet, but I'll get into that in another episode when I go over that the rookie class spreadsheet, the rankings and all that. But he's a strong arm quarterback. I just hate his feet. His feet are all over the place. Happy feet, dancing around. He's 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage, has zero pocket awareness, but hopefully all this stuff can be taught. He took 42 sacks last year, and some of it was a bad offensive line. Yes, but a lot of it was him and his issues, his footwork, his zero pocket awareness, but all that stuff should be able to be taught. I think he has all the tools. I would 100%, absolutely, no questions asked, not start Shedeur Sanders as a rookie. I would not even think about it. You thought that Caleb Williams looked rough as a rookie? You want to go and get Shedeur Sanders killed as a rookie? Trot him out there week 1 and let's see what happens. He will get absolutely murdered. It will not be good. Even if it's a good offensive line, I would not be playing Shedeur Sanders as a rookie. But I think the tools are all there. I think he can learn he can learn the mechanics. He can clean up his footwork. He can, hopefully clean up his pocket presence and learn to step up for once, step up in the pocket. When his feet are planted and he can throw the ball and drive, it's there. It's absolutely there. It's just a matter of if he's doing it. He's always throwing off his back foot. He's always running around doing 3 pirouettes and trying to do some Caleb Williams, Patrick Mahomes type stuff, just trying to do some magic. But it does not work out for him the majority of the time. He didn't really win a lot of big games either. Look into it. He was 0-3 in bowl games, and that includes 2 bowl games at Jackson State. That's pretty unacceptable. If you have Travis Hunter, who is absolutely the most talented player in this draft, he actually is. Looking at that, watching the Shedeur Sanders tape actually bumped up Travis Hunter for me, but he probably won't be playing as much wide receiver as I would like. But regardless, you have Travis Hunter and you have Shedeur Sanders and you have some of these other pieces at Jackson State, and you can't win bowl games. That's pretty unacceptable for me. 2 times, North Carolina A&T or something like that, North Carolina Central, Southwest. Like, you can't be losing to these teams. You can't. I don't care if you're still only Jackson State. I get it. But if you're Shedeur Sanders and you're Travis Hunter, you got to be able to get the job done against those teams. So there's that. Lost to BYU as well in another bowl game. So those are the concerns. But I do think that the Raiders could draft Shedeur Sanders, but I probably would bring in like an Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, something like that to start year 1 and say to both of those guys, sign here, don't sign here. I don't care. You have no leverage. Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson really don't have any leverage, especially for a team like the Raiders. And especially if they draft Shedeur Sanders and they say, listen, we're drafting Shedeur Sanders. He's obviously our future. We need someone to start year 1. And that's one of you two. I think Russell Wilson makes some sense. Obviously, whatever. Aaron Rodgers is fine too. I don't really care. You probably don't want to be starting Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew again, sort of a thing. And Shedeur Sanders just is absolutely not ready. But I do think that makes sense for the Raiders. They might have to trade up to get him. I'm not sure, but that's kind of where I'm at. The Raiders and the Titans are the two that are the most difficult for me to project and predict as it sits right now. But I feel pretty comfortable with Kirk Cousins to the Jets. We'll say Mac Jones to the Browns, Justin Fields to the Steelers, and Will Howard to the Giants. That's got me feeling pretty comfortable. And then there's some other guys that we might see on the move. Derek Carr could be available. I just couldn't. I don't think anyone's going to want to take on the contract and the player. If I'm being honest, I don't think anyone's going to want to pay this contract. I'm sure they would love to get out of it, the Saints, but they might have to cut him and just pay the dead. We'll see, and then see where Derek Carr ends up. I don't really know. That's a weird one. If I'm the Saints, I cut Derek Carr. I cut everybody if I'm the Saints, and I just commit to being a bad team. And then maybe like a Trey Lance makes sense with the Saints. Similar things with the Browns. Maybe he could be your quarterback of the future, and you can paint it to your fan base, saying, "Hey, like we're bringing in a guy. We're going to see what we have. He's a former 3rd overall pick, right? He's 25 years old. He could be our future. Let's get him in here and see what we have." You could paint that picture. Plus, Trey Lance, Jalen Hurts. Some similarities there. I'm not going to say they're even close because really they're really not. But as far as like just a passer, Jalen Hurts is a fairly accurate, consistent passer when he does it. And Trey Lance is not really there. But as far as the rushing ability, things like that, you could paint the picture. If you're the Saints franchise, if you're Mickey Loomis, if you're Kellen Moore, you could paint the picture, cut Derek Carr, bring in Trey Lance, and commit to being bad, and then just see if he could be your guy. Maybe he gets you, a few extra wins, and then you can commit to him. I don't know. I'm not really sold on that if I'm the Saints. It's just a weird one with the Derek Carr contract and where the Saints are cap-wise, because it's an absolute nightmare. So there we are. That's kind of where I'm at so far. We'll dig into this another time. Again, maybe after the combine or towards the combine, we'll dig into all the rookies again for sure. But that's kind of where I'm at. So I am going to try to pick off a couple Garrett Wilson and Kirk Cousins stacks, because regardless, Kirk Cousins will be playing somewhere, and I like Garrett Wilson regardless, especially to be that big target hog, that target monster with that offense, regardless of who the quarterback is. So let's dig into Underdog. Let's jump over to that. Let's do that. And then we'll look at, let's take a quick peek at where Kirk Cousins ADP is at right now. Yeah, 230. Sorry. So yeah, he's free. He's 18th, 19th, 20th round tops, right? So I think that makes a lot of sense if you're the Jets, when they can free up tons of money, they have tons of space. They can make it happen. Aaron Glenn's familiar with Kirk Cousins. Tanner Engstad is familiar enough with Kirk Cousins, somewhat similar to Jared Goff. I think it makes sense. Putt Daddy, what's happening? Good to see you with that nightmare with the Saints. It makes it hard for me to take Olave in drafts 100%, plus the concussion concerns. That's I think I'm 0% right now on Chris Olave, maybe a couple. Let's take a quick peek at that since we're talking about it. 56 drafts in. Yeah, one draft, one little board. I've taken Chris Olave. So I find it really hard to click his name in that range. I said it before, that whole range is such a strange, odd area. Oh, wow. Where is Olave? Oh, he's falling. Okay. It's getting better then. It's definitely getting a little better. Pickens, Sutton. Okay. He was going up around here, I believe. the mid 40s, so 10 picks ahead of where he's at right now. He was going there before, and that's why there was no chance. And the share that I have, he was probably, a faller. I mean, yeah, do you take Chris Olave over Jerry Jeudy? That's pretty close to me. Even Chris Olave, Chris Godwin, Sutton, right? Jaden Reed. It's really close, actually. But yeah, I agree with that 100%. It's a super weird spot. The only thing that would make me like Chris Olave is Kellen Moore runs a lot of plays. He's been known for one of the faster offenses. He runs a lot of plays, whether running the ball, throwing the ball, whatever. They run a lot of plays per game. So that does give Chris Olave a bit of a bump. Who's throwing the ball? That's a huge concern. What's the rest of the team going to look like? Obviously, these are massive, massive concerns and red flags with Chris Olave. But and Kellen Moore offenses, he's had the number one offense in the NFL, I think 3 or 4 times in the last 8 years or whatever it is, something like that. So not that he's going to be able to do with that roster in New Orleans, because he's not, but those things, he runs a lot of plays. They're a bad team. They're a bad defense. That's for sure. They're probably going to lose Paulson to Debo. They lost Marshawn Lattimore, who looks like he's lost a step anyways. So they're going to be a bad team kind of regardless. That's why I've been saying it over and over. Just buy into it. Just be a bad team. Be the worst team in the league. On purpose almost, but you can spin it to your fan base a little bit, and you can sell it if you bring in a guy like Trey Lance, where, he could be our guy, that sort of a thing. Candyman, Fantasy Football Garage, Olave in round 5 feels like a bargain. I don't know if Shaheed can be the wide receiver 1 over him, and probably not a rookie. I said it last week too, or last episode on Saturday there. If I'm the Saints, I cut Shaheed too. Not because I don't think they would be a better team without him, just because they need the cap relief. They desperately need the cap relief. And he has a hard time staying healthy. So Shaheed is definitely not the wide receiver 1 over Olave. That's for sure. No questions asked. So Olave is a very, very good wide receiver, actually. But it's just a tough one. I think he would have to fall a little bit. I would have to get Olave as a bargain, more than he is now. I don't think the 5th round is a bargain, if I'm being honest. Let's jump into a draft and we can chat more about it. So let's jump into a quick big board. Man, the war room's almost there, so I'm gonna have to use up those last two drafts pretty soon. Not that we'll do it today. I want to push those as late as possible so I can get into those, but the big board, let's get into one. If you want to draft, you're in the chat, jump in. We're waiting on 9, so there's tons of room. Let's talk about Chris Olave some more. So going in the mid 50s, right? Pick 55. For me, I find it fairly difficult to click. Relatively difficult to click any of these wide receivers. I don't have a ton of exposure to really any of these guys. This is the running back range for me, and it's not even a conversation. You've got Kamara, Kenny Walker, Hampton, Montgomery, Caleb Johnson, Trevion Henderson, who you all know I absolutely love. I'm not a big James Conner guy, James Conner drafter. That's why I was saying last on Saturday on that episode there, right, is Jaden Reed. Jaden Reed is a pretty reasonable click around here, especially with what you can do with the Packers offense and double, triple stack that, with Jordan Love. You can bring in Reed, then you can bring in Love, you can bring in Tucker Kraft, Dontavion Wicks is always there. I think it's very, very on the table that Romeo Doubs is actually released by the Packers. I think it makes a lot of sense to save some cap space. He was wanting to be out of town anyways. Last year he was demanding a trade, he has any leverage to do that. And then there's concussions, concerns, and issues with Romeo Doubs as well. So I think it's completely on the table that he's not on the Packers roster. And then, Christian Watson's injured. He's probably, maybe he'll come back late in the season. So Jaden Reed feels like the safer click than a lot of these guys. Pick your poison. If, I have some Devontae Adams shares for sure. I have 0 Jordan Addison, and that's more because of JJ McCarthy. I'm not a huge JJ McCarthy believer personally. Yes, I believe in O'Connell. Yes, I believe in the offense, but with, Hawkinson there, obviously Jetta is there, right? With I would say a more subpar thrower of the football than even Sam Darnold in JJ McCarthy. I'm not super high on Jordan Addison personally. I love him as a player, and this is basically what you get out of T. Higgins. So I don't know why T. Higgins is going so much higher than Jordan Addison personally. I've talked about T. Higgins a lot on this show, but I don't know. There you go. So I have a hard time clicking Jordan Addison there. And then obviously we just went over Chris Olave, Pickens. If Justin Fields is the quarterback with the Steelers next year, are we even, we can't be clicking George Pickens around here. I don't think he even does this, right? We've basically seen his ceiling with, a whatever, throw your hands up in the air kind of a quarterback. Hard to say, pick a name out of a hat. We've seen the ceiling, and that shouldn't be around 55th overall, 57th overall, right? That's just not where we need to be taking Pickens, in my opinion. So fairly hard fade on Pickens personally. Portland Sutton, I'd like to mix in a little more for sure, because I do have a lot, and I like Bo Nix. I have a lot of shares of Bo Nix, and I like him a lot. Again, he just goes in this range where all these running backs are my absolute favorite, and that's who I'm clicking over a lot or all of these wide receivers. But I do need to force in a little more Cortland Sutton. Same with Jerry Jeudy. If Mac Jones is the guy there, did they play together? Did Mac Jones and Jerry Jeudy play together at Alabama? They probably did, but I don't think they played. Like, Mac Jones only played one season as a starter, but I'm sure they're on teams together. So there you go. There's a nice little interesting nugget that we just kind of fell into. Chris Godwin, where's he going to go? Coming off a lot, he's obviously had some injury plagued seasons. We know what his kind of ceiling is, and it's right around one of these seasons. Add these up, divided by 4, and there's your kind of Chris Godwin ceiling, most likely. Another year older, another injury. He was super efficient last year until he got injured, and it was looking like he might have a career type of a season. But is he going to be able to replicate that? And is he going to be on the Buccaneers? It's hard to say. So I haven't been clicking much Chris Godwin. I would like to see him fall down a little bit as well, especially when he's going where these running backs are. Again, it's just the range where it doesn't make a crazy amount of sense to take wide receiver. So we'll kind of leave it there. But yeah, when you're most likely taking a first round wide receiver with all of these, this range right here throughout the first round of the draft, throw in Chase and Lamb. Let's go to ADP, right? All of these wide receivers pick 5 through 12, something like that, are wide receivers. And then there's a couple running backs there, always wide receivers to pick, right? And I find it very easy to call it 4 straight wide receivers to start drafts. And then when I'm in that range that we just talked about, that's where I take my first, second running back, right? Maybe 2. What I'm saying by second is my double tap. Either I take 2 running backs in this range, or I at the very least take my first for sure. So that's kind of the biggest reason why I'm fading that range of wide receivers. Plus, a lot of them have some massive question marks. For me, could I be absolutely wrong? You betcha. Absolutely, I could be completely wrong on that. Obviously, leave the door open for being completely wrong. But that's just kind of how I feel about it. So yeah, I'm taking a pretty hard stance on that. Let's zoom in a little bit. Taking a pretty hard stance on that, and I don't expect my opinion to change or my drafting patterns to change at all. If I have to, I'll do it in the summer. Like, is that going to be what stops me from winning the big board in February? I really don't think so. I really, really don't. And if I need to kind of zig when I should have been zagging, not a big deal. You can do that throughout the summer. Like, when you're a super volume drafter, I wouldn't say I'm super volume, but about 500 drafts a year. I can make up for it if I have to. And the prices are going to change, right? So it's a big reason why I'm drafting a ton of Tyreek right now. I think he's mispriced. I think he's very mispriced. So we'll see. Still waiting on one. Been waiting on one for a bit. Hopefully we can get this rolling. I know there's a few other streams coming up tonight. The Fantasy Sanctuary. Shout out to those boys. They're going to be on right after me, basically. So I'll pop into that stream once we're done here. And then who do I want? Who do I need more? Honestly, I need to take some Barkley. I don't want to full fade Barkley, but I don't want to take him second overall. So we'll see. If he gets to me at 7, absolutely I'll take him. Fossil, drafted with him a few times. Seems like a really quality drafter. Green Bean, very quality drafter. Brian, I believe, is Brian on on Twitter as well. If you're in the chat, let me know. King of Kings is his name is Frank. Not sure if he's watching the stream. If you're in the stream and you're watching, let me know. Fossil, there you go. Yeah, we drafted a few times. Quality drafter for sure. Gets the 1-1. If I'm 7, who do I want to be taking? CeeDee Lamb, actually, I would like to get even higher than I am. 18% in this tournament in the big board and 21% overall. 0% on Justin Jefferson. Again, that's a JJ McCarthy thing. I don't want to be 0%, and I can catch up. I'm not worried about that. I think CD should be going ahead of Jefferson, ahead of probably Gibbs and Bijan and Barkley. I have CD as my number 2 ranked. There's my rankings quickly. So I think he's mispriced. Yeah, if Barkley's there, I'll take him. If Bijan's there, I'll take him. If Jefferson's there, I'll take him. But maybe not over Puka Nacua. Hard to say. Nico Collins goes 2. Interesting. That's not a click I'm doing, but it definitely will get a little bit unique. That's for sure. Green Beans in the chat. You big Nico guy, obviously? Or are you just trying to get some exposure, get different, get unique? You can take any of these guys anywhere you want. Any first-round pick, I think, is fine to take anywhere. And then you get different exposures and, different teams. You get unique. So that's actually a strategy that people don't utilize enough, if I'm being honest, is pulling up, the 10th pick, the 9th pick, whatever, ADP-wise, pulling them up to 2, 3, 4, something like that. And people, it's a reach. So I'm not going to say you're wrong by any means, but loves Nico. But I'm personally not the biggest Nico guy. Easy click here for CD. I'll take him every single day of the week at 7 if I can get him there. Make it easy on myself. Let's click back to ADP. Yeah, Nico is an interesting one. I like Nico a lot, or Puka, sorry, Nacua. I like Puka Nacua a lot. I do not think that the Rams do anything with Matt Stafford. I think Matt Stafford's going to be the starting quarterback there for sure. I think they get something done. And I don't know if you saw the spreadsheet. We didn't really talk about it. I'll talk about it another time when I fill out a little bit more of that spreadsheet. But I think Elijah Moore makes a lot of sense for the Rams. They always like to have that veteran wide receiver like, Demarcus Robinson, especially if they're trading Cooper Kupp. They need a slot man. Elijah Moore is, a little over almost 60% slot percentage for his career. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Mike LaFleur. Yeah, Mike LaFleur was the OC with the Jets when they drafted Elijah Moore. He arguably, touchdown-wise, 100%, but I would argue that he had his best season as a rookie in that offense. So that makes a lot of sense. He's only 24 years old. That's what I would do if I'm the Rams. So, but I'm not drafting a crazy amount of Stafford. That's for damn sure. I just like Drake London too much to not take him here, even over Tyreek, even though my bags are pretty packed with Tyreek Hill, that's for sure. And I'll keep taking them. I'll keep stuffing my bags full. I think T. Higgins is going too high. I'm lower than ADP by a fair amount here. We'll see where he lands. Honestly, I think I'm starting to come around. Actually, that's one that I didn't get to today. I'll do it probably after I'm done the stream here, is dig into it a little bit more with T. Higgins to the Cardinals. I think that's what makes the most sense. Obviously, it would be in a trade, Yeah, it would have to be in a trade. If they're going to tag him, like regardless of if he signs it, he would have to sign it to be traded. So, yeah, if he goes to the Cardinals, he would have to come in, sign his tag, have the deal done with the Cardinals. They make the swap. He signs the new contract, obviously, and you get the picture. So that's what I'm thinking a little more and more. I'm going to have to dig into that and see if there's any connections. I always like to look for connections. Obviously, Elijah Moore with Mike LaFleur makes a ton of sense. What did we talk? Kirk Cousins to the Jets. That makes sense in that regard. Yeah, there's a few things we can get into. I always looked for some connection, and you got to make it make sense, because that kind of stuff happens obviously all the time, where they join their former offensive coordinator, whatever, head coach, college connections, whatever it is. So I got to look for something and see if there is any connection with T. Higgins. But it makes a lot of sense for me, unless it's Ted McMillan. That's another guy. So both of those I need to look into for the Arizona Cardinals. Obviously, the local factor with Ted McMillan makes a lot of sense for the Cards. So those are two things that I need to dig into a little bit more before I put it, kind of set it in stone and put it in my spreadsheet. There goes T. Higgins, a little closer to where I have him ADP wise. So I probably would have taken him at 31 here if he was there. James Cook, that might be, well, that's fine. I probably don't click his name there. JSN, I'm super high on. So I would have absolutely taken JSN there. The click is probably Lamar here. Unless I want to get a little different. I have 0 Bucky, and I am getting some ADP value. So let's take Bucky. I don't want to full fade him, that's for sure. So let's get our first Bucky share. 7 picks after ADP. I'll take that value. First running back. That makes a lot more sense. Yeah, it was obviously either Bucky or Lamar, and I've got a ton of Lamar, but with what I have wide receiver wise, I think it just makes more sense to take the running back there. So we'll see where that lands. My door is pretty wide open for what I can do. Yeah. Trey McBride. Is anybody getting any odd anywhere? Devon Achane, Henry. I like that start. You got to catch up, but that's fine. That's easy to do. Lamar at 34 is a nice value. That's a really nice value. I like that. Josh Allen with Jefferson and James Cook. That's why James Cook was a little earlier. Makes sense. I don't hate that. Bijan, Jonathan Taylor, T. Higgins. Don't mind that. Again, not the biggest T. Higgins guy, but he fell. So don't mind that at all. Barkley, Terry McLaurin, and Garrett Wilson. I like that. I do like that. Lamar Jackson with Zay. Brian Thomas and Ladd McConkey, a couple second-year guys. I like that. Fossil, killing it. I like that start a lot. Jamar Chase with Tyreek. What a gift. And then Breece Hall is a huge value there for me. That's pretty much for sure my favorite start in this draft. That's awesome. I'm jealous of that. What do we got here? Jane Daniels, I could go down that road. Obviously, I have CD, so you never know. They could play in the fantasy playoffs. I want to do some different things with Jaden Daniels as well. So let's bring him in. little bit of a discount ADP wise. Not that that really matters, but let's bring him in. All NFC teams as well. I like that quite a bit. I like that a lot. You can lean into those types of things when we don't know who plays who, when, and where, and how. So, especially taking division guys, we talked about that in a previous episode. Chuba for me is just not the guy. This is an interesting build. It's certainly not a way that I would draft personally, but doesn't mean it's wrong. That's for damn sure. Brings Joe Burrow with Jamar and Waddle. The Jets and Miami, obviously, all AFC teams. I like what you're doing there at the one spot. Makes a lot of sense. So now we're in that range of basically it's like DK Metcalf is the last wide receiver in this whole range that I would feel even relatively comfortable clicking. And there you go. So now it's running back. Like, especially when you start CeeDee Lamb, Drake London, why do I need to stuff in a Devontae Adams, a Chris Olave, right? I'm super high on Kenny Walker in a Clint Kubiak offense. They really need to shore up that offensive line, which I fully expect them to do. And then Kenny Walker is going to be super dangerous, I think. I think he's in line to, for sure, have a career season. I'm really banking on that. Obviously, you saw my shares, 30% plus in this tournament and overall. Yeah, that's just where I'm clicking K-Walk a lot. Devontae Adams, Kamara. There goes Chris Olave, who's a hot topic. Like, you give me Chris Olave in this range, like right around where Debo's falling to, right? Calvin Ridley, injury, Ayuk, the San Francisco guys, something like that. I'm a little more likely to click that name. I just have a hard time clicking Chris Olave in the 5th. I really do. Again, especially in the range of running backs. Yeah. Like I'm probably taking Judy over Chris Olave. If I'm ranking it, that's probably the way I'm going. Save me from more Trevion Henderson. I'll pretty much draft Trevion in the middle of the 6th round every single time, and my shares express that love that I have for him. Another NFC team with Kenny Walker. I could bring in Montgomery here. Would make a lot of sense. Jaden Reed, is there. It would definitely be Trevion Henderson if he were there, but let's go Montgomery. Again, another NFC team. I think it makes sense. You can always say that somebody's falling behind at wide receiver when I'm drafting like this. You can always say that, but I just think there's so much value at the end of drafts at wide receiver. I just really think there's a ton of value, especially if CD and Drake London are guys that I think that they can and will be. Then I just think I can catch up quite easily. I really do. And these running backs are gonna kind of get me there, I think. I have my quarterback. Like, yeah, I like it. I like it. If you're not starting 3 straight wide receivers, which I would have, if Jackson Smith and Jigba was there, I'd take him for sure. I'm not quite bringing up Xavier Worthy that high. Mike Evans is on the table, but I got a falling Bucky. I'll take him. But even if Bucky were there and JSN were there, I'm taking JSN every time. And then I probably still would have went Jaden Daniels and still would have went the running backs. So nothing really changes. Nothing would really change unless this is the only pick I would do differently. JSN over for Bucky if he were available. He obviously wasn't, so it is what it is. But that's the only thing I would do different in this draft, really. I'm trying to maintain my David Montgomery exposure too. Last year, I just didn't. He just was going in a strange range where I didn't get enough of him. I think Caleb Johnson's a little inflated. I really do. Yeah, I really think Caleb Johnson and Quinshon Judkins should be closer than they are. What's their difference in ADP? 76 for Judkins and 65. Yeah, they should be way closer. I need Caleb to fall more than 65. I need to. I might even be taking Judkins over Caleb Johnson, even though I do have Caleb Johnson ranked over Judkins. I do, but it's just an easier click if you can get like Shakir, Jaden Reed, and then Judkins. I'm doing that personally. Definitely going to be going wide receiver here. This is another wide receiver range that I love clicking. I would like to get some more Jacoby Myers. I like Ricky Pearsall a ton in this range. I think he could be that wide receiver one potentially. Ayuk, if Ayuk isn't quite there, but over Jennings. But give me Emeka Ibuka. He's my wide receiver one in this class. That might be hot takey. I don't really care. I think he's the wide receiver one. He's the most pro-ready wide receiver in this class. So give me all the Emeka Ibuka that I can kind of get. And if he does go to the Texans, that's a great spot. The Bengals are actually a very on-the-table landing spot for Ibuka for where they draft and where he's projected to go. Ohio State, they need a wide receiver if they end up trading T. Higgins, which is very, very, very live. But this is another wide receiver range. So again, if I'm clicking running back here and taking wide receivers here, I'm going to be underweight on all of these Chris Olave, Pickens, Judy. I'm a little higher on Adams just as a player. Godwin, Ridley, right? I'm going to be underweight on those guys. It's just the way it's going to go. So I'm prepared to live with that. If it's wrong, it's wrong. And then it is what it is. I'll live by the sword, die by the sword on that one. Like Downs, Pearsall, McMillan, Myers, Ibuka, even Jennings I would take, but I'm taking Pearsall over Jennings personally. Debo, I'm starting to sour on a little bit. He's looking a little chunky, and I don't really like that. Where are we going here? It's probably going to be I like Pacheco here. As you can see, 36% and 21. I think he's a fine click. I really do. But you can get him like as late as 100. So if I want him, I can wait sort of thing. I'm not really worried about that. It's going to be Cooper Kupp, I think, here. 0%. I haven't taken a share yet. And this is a team that it makes sense to do it with. So let's bring in Cooper Kupp. We'll see where he lands. I do not maybe Cooper Kupp goes to the Giants, sure, but it's Matt Stafford won't be going with him. I'll tell you that. I don't think Kupp would want to go to the Giants at all. So we'll see. What's up with Debo? Isn't he on the chopping block? Yeah, I think he's very much on the table to not be on that team. Obviously, they would rather trade him, but it might end up where they cut him. He's looking a little chunky, man. There was some pictures of him at, I think it was the Super Bowl or something like that, where he was looking pretty thick. And obviously, he was pretty inefficient last year. He's a little bit older. Doesn't seem to be super duper motivated, which is a big concern, obviously. So, yeah, they have Ayuk, they have Pearsall, they have Jennings. They really don't need Debo. I don't expect him to be on the 49ers. With that picture that came out and he's looking pretty overweight, I didn't really like that personally. Like we're getting some fat Keenan vibes here, fat Debo vibes. So I don't know. He can get into shape relatively quickly, but it's going to get tougher and tougher the older he gets. So there's a lot of types of guys that do that. There's a lot of athletes in general that do that. If you're an MMA fan, what's his name? The Scouser, the Englishman. I can't remember his friggin' name. Paddy the Batty. There you go. Paddy Pimblett. If you're into MMA and you see him, he fattens right up after fights, which is really terrible for you to do just for your health in general. But and then he thins out. He fights at 155 and he gets up to like 2 bills more, like 220, which is crazy. And then he chops all the way down. So yeah, I mean, Debo can do it, but the older you get, the tougher it is to pull that off and do that. So, and the tougher on your body. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes. I don't like it. Obviously, it's not a good look for Debo, that's for sure. I'm pretty torn here. I like the falling value, no question, on Isaiah Pacheco here. And it's just very like this running back room. It could open some doors for me as far as taking only 5 running backs. I like Tyler Warren here as well. But man, it's pretty hard to pass up. I'll be the Pacheco Huckleberry in this range. I'll be the guy. I'll be 40% fucking Isaiah Pacheco. If you're gonna let me take him at pick 103, if you're gonna let me take Pacheco in the 9th round, I'll be the Huckleberry. I'll take him. He's realistically like the only running back on that roster that's still on the roster. He's in a contract year. This is the time for him to play well if he wants a contract, and I'm sure he does. They don't have the money to bring anybody in. They might draft somebody, yeah, sure, but that's not where they want to be spending their capital either. So I'll be the Isaiah Pacheco Huckleberry, man, all day, every day. Keep giving them to me in the late 9th round. Over pick 100, I'll keep taking them. All of these shares that I have, and it's a lot. It's a lot of Pacheco. 36% in this tournament, and I just added another one, and 21% overall. All of the shares are pick, I don't know, 93, 90, probably pick 90 to 105, something like that, is where all my shares reside of Isaiah Pacheco. So I'll be the guy. I'll be the Huckleberry. I'll take him. And this running back room is just getting super, super thick. And I could easily just bring in Najee went. Okay, good. So I'm going to take Dak, and I'm done at quarterback here. My doors are wide open to do a lot of things. I can piss yellow at the end of this draft, and I love it. So Jaden Daniels, Dak Prescott, I'm done at 2 quarterbacks. With this running back room, I probably add in a 5th and then call it good. I'm probably good with 5 here. I like my start at wide receiver, so I'm good there. It might be a 4 tight end team, something like that. We'll see. But I'm happy with this build. It's a little bit different, but I really like it. Putt Daddy, KC doesn't pay running backs and wide receivers with the Mahomes contract. They'll always go bargain basement hunting. Yeah, they will probably draft a running back. Don't get me wrong. I highly doubt it'll be the 1st round, 2nd round, probably not even 3rd round running back. That's not where they want to be spending their capital, in my opinion. So give me, if I can get Pacheco, keep giving to me and pick 100, and I'll click his name every time. I really will. PPR Tyler, what's happening, man? How are you? Consecutive stream streak. I haven't actually jumped into your streams yet, so I'll have to get into that. My apologies. But consecutive, what are you at? 20 something in a row, consecutive days streaming. Good on you. I don't have that kind of time in my life. I wish I did, but every other day typically is what I've been doing. So appreciate you coming in. 42 watching. Appreciate each and every one of you. Hit that like button if you don't mind. Helps the channel, helps me. If you haven't subscribed, click subscribe. Hit the notification bell. This is a rare daytime stream for me. Day off. Watch the Canada game. We're coming for you. Team Canada, Team USA. Let's go. Final rematch. I want all the smoke. It's going to be a good game. That's going to be a really good game. Really, really good game. I'm excited for that one. I will not schedule a stream. I will be watching that one. Yeah, I'm done at quarterback, so I'm not even going to look at it. Or am I? Do I take Michael Penix here? Do I take Michael Penix here? I think I do. With Drake London, I think I do. I think that makes some sense. I'm definitely stopping at 5 running backs, so that gives me the freedom. Let's do it. Let's do it. I like that. Whoops. When nothing else brings you joy and you have no life, it's easy to stream every day. That's good. I like that. Freebird, love it, love it. USA. That's just good football, Tyler. Yeah, I want all the smoke. Let's go. That's gonna be a fun game, guys. I'm very, very excited for that. I'm sure a lot of people are. It's gonna be a fun game. There's probably going to be some fights. This is just really good for hockey. This is obviously not a hockey show, but this whole series and this rivalry right now between Canada and US is just a really, really good thing for hockey. So I'm all for it. If it makes the game bigger and better, then I'm all for it. So let's go. Let's have some fun. Let's see some gloves dropped. Let's and that's the other thing is there's not there's not a lot of there's pretty much never fighting in international hockey. It's very, 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 very rare that there's fights in international hockey, Olympics, World Cup, stuff like that. So yeah, makes it even funner. Travis Hunter probably would have been on the table there, even though there are concerns, 100%. Obviously, I get it, but still probably would have been on the board there. JJ McCarthy goes. Let's bring in Jake Ferguson, pair him up with CD and Dak. I think that's a fantastic double stack. Tons of value on that stack as well. Penix London is such a fun stack, tons of upside. I said basically right after that insane week 18 game, whatever it was, where they went off, Penix to London was just the nuts for that week in DFS, right? I basically said after that week, I'm going to be way overweight on that stack in the big board. Literally tweeted it out, and I'm standing by it. So I'm going to be overweight on that stack for sure. I think it's a great situation, and it's relatively cheap. It's relatively easy to do. So I'll be overweight on that stack. Same with the Dallas stack. I'll be way overweight. I'll be way overweight on Atlanta, and I think it's good process personally. And Dak's just a huge value anyways, in my opinion. I would take him naked. You can bring it back with Ferguson if you want a guy like Tolbert, if you want a guy like Kevontae Turpin, rookies, right? So there's tons of free agents that you could bring in. Slayton is an in-division guy that can move over to the Cowboys, play that Brandon Cooks role, right? So there's a lot of fun things you can do with those types of teams. Even Atlanta, they're pretty live to cut Ray McLeod. I think that's 100% going to happen, that they're just going to release Ray and then draft a slot type receiver like a Xavier Restrepo would make lots of sense. Jalen Royals, maybe something like that would make a lot of sense for that offense. So there's just a lot of fun things that you can do with both the Dallas Cowboys, the Atlanta Falcons. There's a few other teams that are like that. The Washington Commanders are absolutely like that. There's only 2 wide receivers under contract with the Commanders right now. So there's a lot of fun things that you can do with these quarterbacks in these early tournaments where we don't know everything. We don't know anything more or less right now. You can speculate, and obviously I do. I show you my spreadsheets. I tell you what I'm speculating. And I back it up. I draft as such. I'm not just talking shit. I'm not just making stuff up. I draft like I'm right, and hopefully it works out for me. So 59 people watching. Appreciate you guys. 60, just hit 60. Hit that like button if you don't mind. Really appreciate it. We've been on a bit of a roll with the likes and the views and the subscribers, so I appreciate that. If you're new, hit that subscribe button, notification bell. It can be a touch sporadic when I go live. I don't have a set schedule, even though I probably should. But it's tough with life, as y'all know. I'm sure everybody has a real life on here outside of their internet persona. Definitely done at quarterback. No questions asked now. I will take it completely off the table. There's no chance in the world I'm taking a fourth. You couldn't pay me money to do that. Definitely Kyle Pitts. I'm really glad. I didn't want to say it and jinx it. So obviously bringing Kyle Pitts. I don't think it makes any sense in the world for the Falcons to trade Kyle Pitts. We talked about it last stream. If they cut him, they eat all of his dead money, 10.8 million, I think it is, if they cut him. So that's obviously 1,000,000% not happening. If they trade him, $0 in dead cap and 10.8 million in savings. It's one of those situations, in my opinion, where the team might put it out there, right? Seeing what they can get back in a trade. If someone's going to, I've said it lots of times on this channel, on this show, if someone's going to offer the Falcons a first round pick for Kyle Pitts, they probably pull the trigger and make that trade, right? If it's a third round pick, not going to happen. It just does not make sense if they're what they expect to be this year, which is a playoff team. Then I do not think it makes any sense in the world to trade Kyle Pitts. So I fully expect him to be there. I really, really do. And then a rookie, most likely. You know, an Elijah Moore makes a lot of sense too for that team. Slot type wide receiver. If Ray-Ray McCloud is gone, which I fully expect him to be, then a guy like Elijah Moore makes a lot of sense. A lot of these rookies we just talked about. But as it sits right now, I'm double stacked Cowboys, double stacked Falcons, and I like that. We'll go through the team after I make this pick. Definitely, like wide receiver here, but I might just take a running back and be done. Xavier Restrepo makes a lot of sense here, actually. But I'm really trying to stuff my bags a little bit more, and then I can be done at running back as well with some Jalen Wright action. Tyreek Hill in an interview the other day, whoever the interviewee asked him, who's a guy we need to keep an eye on with the Dolphins? Who's somebody that, could be ascending, that could take the next step? He said Jalen Wright. I like Jalen Wright a lot in the draft last year as a rookie. Didn't really produce. Obviously, that whole team kind of had a tough time, which is why I'm drafting a lot of Miami Dolphins. So I'm trying to stuff in a little more Jalen Wright. Obviously, Devon Achane is the guy there for sure, no question. But with how much they run the ball, Jalen Wright's going to get his regardless. And if anything should happen, I've said it a few times, if anything should happen to a 5'9", 180-pound running back, then, Jalen Wright can be that guy. So I like that. I'm happy. I'm done at running back. I won't take it off yet because you never know, but I probably will not be taking another running back. I definitely will be adding one more tight end. It does make sense to take Zach Ertz with this team. So we're sitting at Jaden Daniels, Dak Prescott, Michael Penix, Bucky Irving, Kenneth Walker III, David Montgomery, Isaiah Pacheco, Jalen Wright, CeeDee Lamb, Drake London, Emeka Ibuka, Cooper Kupp, Jake Ferguson, Kyle Pitts. Double stacked Falcons, double stacked Cowboys. I expect Ertz to be back with this team. I really do. But I really don't have to force it. I really, really don't have to force it. When I have double stack Cowboys, double stack Falcons, I have my stacks. I really don't need to force it at all. And I don't think I will. I don't think it makes sense with this team to go down that road. I really don't. Yeah. Wide receivers obviously a priority. I am going to go Probably with my big concern with the Giants is who's going to be their quarterback. And that's obviously the big concern with Wandale and Neighbors already being there. 140 targets, 93 catches. Obviously, he was kind of a check down. Does Wandale make the most sense here? Or is it, Yoshi Voss, Jalen Royals? I think I need a floor here with only having 4 wide receivers so far. So let's get Wandale in our lives. Yeah, let's do that. I need a floor play a little bit, in my opinion, when I'm light at wide receiver. If I'm sitting at 5 or 6 wide receivers, I'm a little more flush. I could take some shots with a rookie, or Yoshi Voss, who I'm higher on than most, it seems. Especially again, I don't expect T. Higgins to be on the team, but they could draft somebody. They will draft somebody for sure if T. Higgins isn't on that team. But definitely a red zone kind of target. He's ascending. He's gotten better each season. I like Yoshi Voss. I think he can definitely do some good things this year. If we're looking at like what's on the table, I don't know, probably 600 to 800 yards, 6 to 8 touchdowns. I think that's fully on the table for Yoshi Voss. There's a wide receiver here that is absolutely on top of my board. Jack Bash is my guy. Give me all the Jack Bash I can get. I'm gobbling up as many shares as I can get right now at this ADP. 27% overall, 27% in this tournament. And here's another share, and then 25% overall. I've said it a few times. When Jack Bash comes in at 6'1", 220 and runs a 4.4, yeah. Yeah, you betcha. You betcha. Green, this is my first Green Bay Jordan Love team. Nothing feels great. I'm at like nothing as in you don't like that. I like that a lot. I talked about it last episode. I love, that's why I like taking Jaden Reed a little bit more, where people aren't. Who did you end up with in the Jordan Love stack? Where are you? There you are. Jordan Love, Tucker Kraft, wonderful. That's what I like to do with Jordan Love. Jacobs as well. You can bring in Dontavian Wicks, obviously, if he's probably gone. Yeah, he went down here. Okay. But I like to do that when I'm on this end of the draft. You did it over here. That's fine. I don't think it's a reach whatsoever to take Jordan Love where you did. And then you get Tucker Kraft right where he's at ADP wise. I typically do it on this end of the draft right around here. And you do have to pull up Tucker Kraft a little bit. But especially, like I said in the other episode there, especially if I haven't, developed a stack yet, and I'm in the 9th, 10th round, give me Jordan Love, bring it back with Tucker Kraft, and then you can get Dontavian Wicks down here, right? A 155, 158, something like that. Bring in a double stack Green Bay. But then that's why I'm taking a little more. Where did he go here? He fell a ton. Jaden Reed, that's huge value. Oh, you did get him. Good on you. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So I usually get Jaden Reed right around here, the 58, 63, something like that. And then I bring it back with the Green Bay guys later in the draft. So I'm probably going to like that team. We're going to go over it when we're done here, when we're wrapped up. So what do we need? Definitely not running or quarterback. I don't care what it looks like. Huge falling value on Zach Ertz. Probably makes sense to go down that road here if he's still available. Arroyo could make some sense at tight end. If he's there, I'll take him. Sure. 21 picks past ADP. Yeah, as long as he's there. This guy takes him, cool. I'll figure something else out. Definitely won't take Tolbert. Let's just take Zach Ertz then. That's easy. I like it in that room. Jake Ferguson, Kyle Pitts, Zach Ertz. Can't really go wrong, I don't think. So we're done at tight end for sure as well. I definitely do not have to force anything with running back, but I don't mind Marshawn Lloyd right here. I like Audric Estime as the shares can show a lot more than most. I like Tez Johnson as the shares show. I like Damian Martinez. I like Savion Williams at this stage of the draft. Give me that boom bust. Putt Daddy, I actually just drafted a Love, Reed, and Craft stack today and love the team. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot personally. I'm trying to stop at 5 running backs here, especially when, you could definitely say I'm fragile at wide receiver, even though I really like this wide receiver room personally. Yeah, it opens the door for these rookies that I have just a ton of shares of. Jalen Noel, another rookie I like a lot. And a lot of these running backs. I do need to get a little more Brashard Smith, but I don't think it's something you need to force. I like, give me over 6 yards per carry Damian Martinez with 2 different teams in college, Oregon State and Miami. Big body guy. If he can get 6 yards per carry with that frame, yeah, I'm a fan. I need to get a little more Malik Washington in my life. I like the Dolphins a lot this year, but I draft just so much, Tyreek Hill that I don't particularly love to stack it. And it's really easy to do with Jalen Waddle as well. Jonnu Smith is there. Do I just take Marshawn Lloyd? Let's get Tez Johnson. I'm higher on Tez than most. He's one of my guys in this draft. I don't care. I don't care what you're going to say about his size. I don't care. If Devontae Smith can be what he is, if Tank Dell can be what he is, and supposedly Tez Johnson's got Cooper Kupp and Tank Dell on speed dial, talking to them all the time. Give me that kind of intel. I'm happy with that. Give me all the Tez Johnson in the 18th round, literally free. Obviously, I need wide receivers anyways, so I'm happy to take rookies as well. I wouldn't mind mixing in another veteran wide receiver. Where are you guys at on Deontay Johnson? Personally, I'm still out. We'll see where he goes. 29 years old now. Played for like 4 different teams in the last calendar year, something like that, right? Obviously, he's a bit of a head case. I don't know. We'll see where he lands. Demarcus Robinson's an interesting one as well. I don't think he's ever not played in the playoffs, I think is the thing with Demarcus Robinson. Chiefs and then the Rams. I don't think he's ever not played in the playoffs, which is interesting. He's a free agent. Buffalo may make some sense. I don't know. A lot of teams would make some sense. He's just a quality wide receiver, really. You can just, be this for anybody in any offense. He can be exactly what you need him or want him to be. Fossil takes Elijah Moore. That would have been that veteran wide receiver that I'd want in this build. It would make a lot of sense. Love me some Ricky White, personally. Tyler Lockett's another interesting one. Where is he going to end up? Because it won't be on the Seahawks. That's almost for sure. I might get a little freaky and a little creative, I think. The Raiders are too weird. I just don't know where the Raiders go. I don't mind Trey Tucker. I'm just really concerned about who their quarterback is going to be. I'm just going to go ahead and take Luke McCaffrey here. I expect him to be the slot receiver for this team this year. for the Washington Commanders. Stack them up with Jaden Daniels. And I've got Ertz. So I didn't force it at all. I mean, you could say I'm forcing it with McCaffrey, but it's the 19th round. So do whatever the hell you want. And there's just tons of options for that last wide receiver spot. Let's bring in McCaffrey. No, I don't like Tolbert this year. I was pretty high. I was super highly exposed. I was probably 25, roughly 25% last year in over the summer with Jalen Tolbert. I just think he probably gets replaced this year. I would, if I'm the Cowboys. He had every opportunity to, be more than he was, and he didn't quite get there for me. If he had a better season, like 49 catches, 6, 10, and 7, 79 targets. Yeah, obviously there was the issues with the quarterback situation and whatnot, but I don't know. He's had every opportunity to get there, and he just kind of hasn't quite, if you ask me. So I would look for more talent at that position. If it's me, an Elijah Moore makes a lot of sense there as well. He makes a lot of sense for a lot of teams. Again, Slayton, you bring him in to do that, Brandon Cooks thing. I think he can do that and take away from Jalen Tolbert. And then there's just a lot of rookies that I think can play a role on this team. Yeah, I'm not 0% in this tournament, 2% overall, and with Jalen Tolbert. Not super high on him personally. And then there's just tons of options here. Slayton, Calvin Austin, Trey Tucker, Curtis Samuel, pretty much for sure will be a Buffalo Bill this year. Parker Washington. If there's been some chatter now about Christian Kirk, which I talked about, on the last episode, I think it's possible. It's less likely. I think Evan Ingram is off the Jags for sure. I really don't think Evan Ingram comes back. I think they cut him. Obviously, they would like to trade him, but I think they might have to just end up cutting him. And then if they do, then that's a little closer with Christian Kirk for me. If they do move on from Evan Ingram, do you really want to move on from Christian Kirk as well? It's a little tighter. But I do like Parker Washington and Brenton Strange in that offense with the money they can save. So it's really close. But I'm going to take my first share of, or am I? I don't know. I kind of like Josh Palmer, but I'm going to go with Curtis Samuel here. I'm going to take my first Curtis Samuel share. Obviously, he was a little banged up last year, but he's still on the Bills. And it's almost for sure that he's going to be on this team. I would look for him to run the ball a little bit more. Obviously, James Cook is having this whole contract kind of dispute where he wants more money. I don't expect him to get paid this year. I really, really do not expect James Cook to get paid this year. But maybe next year. He's probably building towards it. I think it's a little early for a running back that just broke out, had one good season so far. Let's slow it down. I'm sure he wants more money, obviously, but if I'm the Bills, I think you got to pump the brakes there unless you want to pay him 10. If you can get an extension done with James Cook for 10 mil a year, yeah, I think you definitely do it. I think you make it happen, but he obviously wants more than that. 15 is ridiculous. That's never going to happen, and I think he knows that, but either way, I think Curtis Samuel gets more touches, more targets, more potential carries in this offense. He's very familiar with the offense, familiar with the offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, right, from the Carolina Panther days. And the contract says he will be on this team. That's what it tells me, is he absolutely will be on this team. It doesn't make sense to do anything but just trot him out there and have him as your wide receiver 3, maybe 4. Hopefully he's a spike week type of a guy. So yeah, interesting squad, a little bit different than I would typically build, but similar in a lot of ways as well. So mostly the running back room is weird, but I like it. We'll go through the teams. If you're in the chat, let me know. We'll go through Fossil. We'll go through Green Bean. We'll take a look at my squad again. If, Frank, Brian, if you're in the chat, you want me to go over your squad, let me know. But let's take a look at the squad pulled up. Jaden Daniels, Dak Prescott, Michael Penix, double stacked all of them, which is, again, a little bit unique for how I build. Typically, I wouldn't with Jaden Daniels, but nobody took Zach Ertz. And I'm trying to mix in some more stacks with Jaden Daniels and Christian McCaffrey, because McCaffrey 100% will be on this team, obviously, should be the slot receiver. And I expect him to take a reasonable jump in his second year. I didn't expect much from him as a rookie, but in his second year in this offense with that quarterback, yeah, I'm a bit more of a buyer on Luke McCaffrey. Dak Prescott, I'm definitely a buyer. Definitely going to be overweight Penix. So I like that. Bucky Irvin got him at a discount. Kenneth Walker, one of my favorite running backs. David Montgomery, I'm trying to keep up my shares. Isaiah Pacheco, I'll be the 103rd pick, 103 pick, over 100. I'll be the Huckleberry. I'll click him every time. So if he's going to fall there, I'll take him. Jalen Wright is just a guy that I'm trying to up my exposure to. I like him a lot. I like the player. I like the situation. He's the direct handcuff, so I dig that. 0 rookies, which is odd in this rookie class, that I absolutely adore, and everybody else does too, I'm sure. So definitely a unique running back room for me, but this I think you can definitely get away with, and it can get the job done. So I like that. CeeDee Lamb, Drake London, Emeka Ibuka, my wide receiver 1. Cooper Kupp, we'll see where he lands. Wan'Dale Robinson, Jack Besh, Tez Johnson, Luke McCaffrey, Curtis Samuel. Stacked up my top 2 wide receivers, which I like to do with my quarterbacks, and then Luke McCaffrey as well. That's nice. I dig it. I really like Jack Besh. That's a name that I think when we see him at the combine and he measures what he measures and he runs what he runs and the buzz gets buzzing, I think Jack Besh is going to skyrocket. Where will he go? Certainly 30 pick ADP jump, I would say, maybe more. We'll see. Tez Johnson's just kind of my guy. Curtis Samuel, my first share, I'll take it. And then Jake Ferguson, Kyle Pitts, and Zach Ertz. I like this room. Not a crazy amount of capital, but they can all kind of get it done. High floor type of guys stacked up with my quarterbacks. Maybe not high floor for Pitts, but definitely a high ceiling guy. High floors with Ertz and Ferguson. The potential, as we all know, with Kyle Pitts is always there. So I dig it. I like this team. Fossil, I liked the start you had. That's for damn sure. And I like it that you got Tua. Joe Burrow, Tua. This is close for me to stop at 2. That's really, really close. We talk about a fair amount on this channel, on this show. Stopping at 2 if you can. That's really close though. So I don't mind bringing in a late Sam Darnold. That's fine. If you're going to bring in a third, then it should be late. So I don't mind that at all. And then we'll see where he lands. I think the Titans are the spot for Darnold personally, but we'll see where it goes. Breece Hall, Quinshon Judkins. I'm not a Travis Etienne guy personally, but you backed it up with Bigsby. So I dig that. I like that a lot more, that you got his backup. Kendra Miller and Gibson's a guy for me. I like this room a lot. That's good. You're getting the running back with Jacksonville, which I expect that, the Jags as a team, I expect to be more efficient running the ball and be better running the ball. So I don't mind that at all. You're getting the points, right? And then obviously Breece Hall and Judkins are hopefully it. You could say it's a touch fragile, but I personally like it a fair amount. So I like that. Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Luther Burden. I'm not a Luther Burden guy personally. I absolutely am a Trey Harris guy. Little nugget. I'm going to be showing my spreadsheets a little bit later once I have them a little more filled out. But Trey Harris is my number 2 wide receiver right now. So, yeah, I like Trey Harris. I'm trying to pack my bags more for sure. Isaiah Bond, I'm not an Isaiah Bond guy either, but it's difficult. It's really difficult to kind of assess these pass catchers from from Texas, because Quinn Ewers is absolute garbage. He is warm, hot, 100 degrees garbage. Quinn Ewers. The last 2 years, the pass catcher from the Texas Longhorns, it's tough to, fully, gauge where they're at. when he's the one throwing the ball, because he's terrible. He is terrible. If you like Quinn Ewers, I don't know what to tell you. He ain't it, man. He just is not it. So I'm not a big Isaiah Bond guy either. I think he's going to be a little too gadgety for me. We'll see where he ends up. Yeah, he might run fast, but look at the, and look at the wide receivers that have run, for sub 4.4, like in the 4.3s, sub 4.35, something like that, which is where he might land. Like you're pretty hard pressed to find an actual NFL wide receiver in there. Xavier Worthy might be the best of all of them. So we'll see. Obviously, he's a rookie. This is his second year, but Isaiah Bond, I don't know, a little too gadgety for me, but I love Trey Harris. Elijah Moore, that's a great click as well. So this works. It certainly works. Jamar Chase with Burrow double stacked the Miami Dolphins here. I like that. Yeah, dig it. Jonnu Smith, another. And then Mike Gesicki, I fully expect to be back with my Bengals. So I consider that to be a double stack. And then triple stack with the Dolphins, Freiermuth, high floor. I need more Freiermuth in my life for sure. But yeah, this makes sense. I like this team a lot. Very high probability to advance. And then you're stacked up. So I dig it. Well done. Green Bean, Jordan Love, I'm a fan. CJ Stroud, we'll see what else he did to back that up. I like Will Howard a lot, so I'm fine with this. I think he is, I said it before in the stream, I'll say it many more times. I think Will Howard is the most NFL-ready quarterback right now. That's my opinion, and it will not change. So I think if you had to start a game right now and you have these rookies to choose from, give me Will Howard. So I like that. That makes sense. I'm actually okay with this room. Josh Jacobs, Tyrone Tracy, Ramondre Stevenson, definitely some question marks with Stevenson and Tracy. I don't think I'm breaking news to you on that one. Josh Jacobs, the amount of carries concern me, but I'll take him if he drops. I understand the click and I'm fine with it. And these guys can work, that's for sure. Dylan Sampson, I don't know. I'm having a hard time with Dylan Sampson. I'm not sure where I'm going to land. I'm not sure where I'm going to land, when it's all said and done. But right now I'm lower than most on Samson. Yeah, I think I have 0 shares. RJ Harvey, interesting back. Touchdown machine, little ball of energy, little undersized. He's only 5'9", but he's about 205, 207. So he's got good build. Former quarterback. Again, definitely has a nose for the end zone, so I don't mind that click. Woody Marks is a guy I need to get a little bit more of. Very similar in a lot of ways to I comped Woody Marks to Tony Pollard. Let me know what you think of that, but that was my kind of comp. So I'd like to get a little more of him with that comp in mind. But this can work for sure. Nico Collins, DJ Moore, Tet McMillan, Cortland Sutton, Jaden Reed, Jalen Coker, Xavier Streppel, Jalen Knoll. I like this room a lot. I'm not a big Tet McMillan guy. I'm not a huge Nico guy, if I'm being honest, but I still really like this room. I like your rookies at the end here with Streppel and Knoll. I like that. I like Coker. Jaden Reed with that kind of value. That's nice. Only 5 picks, eh? He needs to be going a little bit higher than that, in my opinion. Stroud with Nico. I like that. Do you have Schultz? You do. I dig that. Double stack Houston. I think that we're going to see Houston get back to where they were a little bit. I'm fine with that. And he's going to be this. The only concern I have is Cade Stover a little bit with the Ohio State connection with CJ Stroud. And he definitely got in the game last year. Could take a step forward. And Schultz is he is absolutely a catch and fall down type of tight end. But that's all right. Elijah Arroyo, I like. Tucker Kraft, I like a lot. I dig this team. It definitely could work. Yeah, it can absolutely work. Doesn't look like it looks like Will Howard would probably be naked unless he went to the Giants. But he's probably going to be naked. But no, I like that a lot. Double stack your Houston. Double stack your Green Bay. Triple stack with Jacobs. I like that. It's quality. I like that team. Good chance, again, a good chance to advance. Obviously, quarterback might be a little thin-ish. We'll see. I like Love. I like Stroud. I like Howard. I'm fine with it, but we'll see. I like your team. Is that it? Is that it in the chat? Let me know if you're in the chat and you want your team reviewed. But other than that, I think that's it. I hear you on Samson. I'm the same, but 60 drafts in, I got to start pivoting in some other rookies. Yeah, I get that. That's good process for sure. That's definitely good process. But to be honest, I don't mind just getting overweight on guys. I really don't mind it, especially the rookies, especially if I really like them, especially before the combine, where we're going to learn more and then guys are going to get hyped up. ADPs are going to shift for sure before the combine, or sorry, after the combine, obviously. And, the hype trains are going to get moving. So I don't mind kind of packing my bags. Like I was saying, Jack Bash, I'm stuffing my bags full of Jack Bash. And then what I expect him to do at the combine, I think he's going to skyrocket. And then we'll kind of see and take it from there. So there's a few rookies that I'm doing that with. And, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But really, again, most of them are pretty late round picks. Even Jack Bash, 15th, 16th round pick, right? Savion Williams, Tez Johnson, 16, 17, 18, 20th round pick, that sort of thing. So if you're wrong, you're wrong. And it's not the end of the world. If you have 40%, then that's all good. A few of those 9-round rookies. So that's all good. But if you guys don't mind, hit that like button for me. 76, we got up to 80 watching. I appreciate that. Hopefully you're watching on the YouTube machine and not the Twitterverse, but jump on over. If you're watching after the fact, I appreciate it. Leave a comment if you can. We'll get a stream going again, probably either tomorrow or Wednesday, something like that. Either Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, something like that. Whenever the hockey game's not rolling, because I definitely will be watching that US-Canada final. That'll be a great game. But we'll end it there. I'll show the spreadsheets again in a couple of weeks, and we'll finish that out. So that'll be fun. But like I say on Off the Schneid, if you're afraid to be wrong, you'll never be right. Hopefully tonight we were right. And we'll see you on the next one. Peace, guys. Have a great day.